Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Good morning, devotees. As I promised Targa Prabhu, first before class, you'll get a little darshan of Radha Govinda.
Hi, thank you.
You're very welcome. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nasta Prayesavadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamaśloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So we're reading from the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam, the 9th chapter. Today is verse number 7, etc., as some of the verses do not have a purport. And that's our tradition. We follow in the footsteps. We are at the feet of the previous acharyas. So we give all credence to the purports of Srila Prabhupada. So this is the verse for today, one of the verses. Atha yavisyasi dvijasati swagarva jatam mitunam sapatnya upanyasya svayam anusamstaya patilokam agat. Atha thereafter, Yavyasi, the youngest, Vijasati, wife of the Brahman, Swagarva Jatam, born of her womb, Mitunam, the twins, Sapatnyai, unto the co-wife, Upanyasya, entrusting Swayam personally, Anusamsthaya, by following her husband Patilokam, the planet named Patiloka, Agat, went to. Translation. Thereafter, the Brahman's younger wife, after entrusting her twin children, the boy and girl, to the elder wife, departed for Patiloka, voluntarily dying with her husband. Next verse. Pitari uparati bhrattarayanam matat prabhava vidas trayam vidyayam eva paryavasita matayona paravidyayam jadamatiriti bhratur anushasana Nirbandhan Nyavrit Santa. Pitayu Parate, after the death of a father, Bratara, the stepbrothers, enam unto these Bharata, Jada Bharata, Atat Prabhava Vida, without understanding his exalted position, Trayam, of the three Vedas, Vidyayam, in the matter of material ritualistic knowledge, Eva, indeed, Paryavasita, settled, Mataya, whose minds na not para vidyayam, in the transcendental knowledge of spiritual life, devotional service, Jadamati, most dull intelligence, iti thus Pratru, their brother Jarabharata, Anushasana Nirbandhat, from the endeavor to teach, Nyavritsanta, stopped. Translation: after the father died, the 9 stepbrothers of Jadabharata, who considered Jadabharata dull and brainless, abandoned the father's attempt to give Jadabharata a complete education. The stepbrothers of Jadabharata were learned in the 3 Vedas, the Rig, Sama, and Yajur Veda, which very much encouraged fruitive activity. The 9 brothers were not at all spiritually enlightened in devotional service to the Lord. Consequently, they could not understand the highly exalted position of Jadabharata. Next verse. I'm going to read the Sanskrit, skip the synonyms. Sacha prakritayar dvipada pashuvir ummata jada badira muketi abhibhashyamano yada tad anurupani prabhasate karmani cha karyamana parichaya karoti vistito vitanato va yakchaya yadrichaya vupasaditam alpam bahumrishtam kadanam Bhabyavaharati param nendriya priti nimitam nitya nivritta nimitta svasida vishuddhanubhavananda svatma labadi gama sukha dukkhayor dvandva nimittayor asambhavita dehabhimana shitoshna vatta varseshu vrisha iva navritanga pina samana nanga standila samveshanu marda na majana rajasa mahamanir ivana vivyakta brahma varchasa kupatavrita katir upavit tenoru mashina vijatir iti brahma bandur iti samyat yataj Gyaja Vamato Vichachara. That's a mouthful of Sanskrit. Translation, Emperor Srila Prabhupada. Degraded men are actually no better than animals. The only difference is that animals have 4 legs and such men have only 2. These 2-legged animalistic men used to call Jadabharata mad, dull, deaf, and dumb. They mistreated him, and Jadabharata behaved for them like a madman who was deaf, blind, and dull. He did not protest or try to convince them that he was not so. If others want him to do something, he acted according to their desires. Whatever food he could acquire by begging or by wages, and whatever came of its own accord, be it a small quantity, palatable, stale, or tasteless, he would accept and eat. He never ate anything for sense gratification because he was already liberated from a bodily conception, which induces one to accept palatable or unpalatable food. He was full in the transcendental consciousness of devotional service, and therefore he was unaffected by the dualities arising from a bodily conception. Actually, his body was as strong as a bull's, and his limbs were very muscular. He did not care for winter or summer, wind or rain, and he never covered his body at any time. He lay on the ground and never smeared oil on his body or took a bath. Because his body was dirty, his spiritual effulgence and knowledge were covered, just as the splendor of a valuable gem is covered by dirt. He only wore a dirty loincloth, and his sacred thread, which was blackish. Understanding that he was born in a Brahmin family, people would call him a Brahmabandhu and other names. Being thus insulted and neglected by materialistic people, he wandered here and there. Purport. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung Deha Smriti Nahi Jara Samsara Bandhana Kahantara. One who has no desire to maintain the body, or who is not anxious to keep the body in order, and who is satisfied in any condition, must be either mad or liberated. Actually, Bharat Maharaj, in his birth as Jada Bharata, was completely liberated from material dualities. He was a Paramahamsa and therefore did not care for bodily comfort. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurumilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayati Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurundina Taranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyam Ishwaram. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. So here we find dullness on purpose, which is unusual in this age where everybody's trying to prove via social media that they're exactly the opposite. Yet, the saying goes that a fool is only discovered after they open their mouth, and everybody's opening their mouth and showing how foolish they are. Here, Jada Bharata is exactly the opposite. He didn't want anything to do with puja, pratishta, adoration, because he was in the Paramahamsa stage. So what's the difference between a neophyte and a Paramahamsa? The neophyte wants to proclaim his or her glories, and the very advanced Paramahamsa wants to actually be invisible. Doesn't want to deal with materialistic people, doesn't want to engage in small talk, doesn't want to be asked stupid questions. Therefore, they try to remain aloof, and for that purpose, they tolerate all sorts of abuse. This is it's very interesting that the verse, there's a verse in the 5th chapter of this 5th canto. I want to read it to you. That is very similar, and not only is similar, but Prabhupada and the Purport quotes the same song by Narottam Das Thakur. So this is the 5.5.30. Rishabhadev began to, and this is one of his ancestors, Rishabhadev began to tour through cities, villages, mines, countrysides, valleys, gardens, military camps, cow pens, the homes of cowherd men, transient hotels, hills, forests, and hermitages. Wherever he traveled, all bad elements surrounded him, just as flies surround the body of an elephant coming from a forest. He was always being threatened, beaten, urinated upon, and spat upon. Sometimes people threw stones, stool, and dust at him, and sometimes people passed foul air before him. Thus people called him many bad names and gave him a great deal of trouble. But he did not care about this, for he understood that the body is simply meant for such an end. He was situated on the spiritual platform, and being in his spiritual glory, he did not care for all these material insults. And he had no bodily conception. Thus, without being angry at anyone, he walked through the whole world alone. And in the purport, Prabhupada begins by saying, Narottam Das Thakur says, Deha Smriti Nahiyar Samsara Bandhana Kahantar. When a person fully realizes that the material body and world are temporary, he is not concerned with pain and pleasures of the body. One thing that is interesting about this quotation by Srila Prabhupada about this particular song, Deha Smriti Nahiyar Samsara Bandhana Kahantar. I did look at every single song of Narottam Das Thakur, and I could not find this particular stanza. Not at all. There are 67 songs that Narottam Das Thakur wrote, and there is no news of this particular song. So either Prabhupada knew a song that we don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to explain this particular one. So I found very interesting songs by Narottam Das Thakur that many of his songs, Narottam Das Thakur, he is in the lolium stage, lamenting, hankering. When could I be in Vrindavan? When could I smear aguru and sandalwood on the lotus feet of the maidservants of a divine couple? When can I witness the spiritual world, etc., etc.? But in these other songs, he actually refers to the Vaishnavas, that without the mercy of the Vaishnavas, one cannot really make spiritual progress. So I selected a couple of songs. First, I look at the quote for this this particular Deha Smriti Nahiyar Samsara Bandhana Kahantar, that one who is spiritually situated, that does not think that he is the body. And there is in the verse from the 7th canto, 15th chapter, verse number 40, that was spoken by Narada Muni to Yudhishthira Maharaj regarding a householder's liberation from material bondage. On the spiritual platform, one does not necessarily care for the body. Srila Narottam Das Thakur said, Deha Smriti Nahiyar, again, Samsara Bandhana Kahantar. One who is spiritually situated does not think that he is a body. Therefore, he can transcendentally execute severe penances in the renounced order of life. The best example of such renunciation is Raghunath Das Goswami. In the Antya Lila, 6,314, Prabhupada said, if one's heart has been cleansed by perfect knowledge and one has understood Krishna, the Supreme Brahman, he then gains everything. Why should such a person act like a debauchee by trying to maintain his material body very carefully? In the purport, he says this verse, and again quotes Bhagavatam 7:15-40, was spoken Narada to Yudhishthira, and again quotes about the one who is spiritually situated, doesn't think he is a body, and can execute severe penances and austerities and then renounce order of life. And of course, excuse me, the best example of Raghunath Das Goswami. So let's just refer to a couple of songs by Narottam Das Thakur. This has 20 verses. It's called Anya Abhilasa Chadi. It's from a Prema Bhakti Chandrika. I will just read the translation. Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada has said, that's in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Uttama Bhakti, or unalloyed devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, involves the rendering of devotional service in a way that is favorable to the Lord. This devotional service should be free from any extraneous motive and devoid of fruitive karma, impersonal jnana, and all other selfish desires. Rejecting all other desires and abandoning philosophical speculation and fruitive work, in the company of devotees, I will worship and serve Lord Krishna with my body and mind. I will not worship the demigods and demigoddesses. Devotional service is the reason for my life. Devotedly follow the path of great devotees in the past. Properly using your body and mind, do not neglect either the regulative devotional practices or the remembrance of the Lord's pastimes. Always reject the company of the impious. That's another theme throughout Narottam Das Thakur songs. Reject the company of impious people. Give up attraction to non-devotional songs. Leave the karmis and jnanis far away. Only associate with the devotees. Take pleasure in hearing the nectar descriptions of pure love for Krishna. Become flooded by the nectar of the narrations of the Lord's pastimes in Vraj. Putting the yogis, swamis, karmis, jnanis, demigod worshippers, and meditators far away and rejecting the torments that are fruitive work, ordinary religion, and the other yogas, worship Lord Giridhari. The struggle to travel to various holy pilgrimage places is simply the mind's mistake, because to make spiritual advancement, all one actually needs is the lotus feet of Lord Govinda. Abandoning pride and envy, and with firm faith in your heart, always worship Lord Govinda without deviation. See the devotees of Lord Krishna, associate with the devotees of Lord Krishna, faithfully engage in the ninefold process of devotional service, which includes hearing about the Lord, chanting his glories, worshiping him, offering obeisances to him, and remembering him. Following these activities enlightens the devotees with spiritual knowledge. I shall use these senses to serve Lord Govinda, and I shall decline to worship the various demigods and demigoddesses. I shall only speak about pure devotional service. The numberless different philosophies and conceptions of life are all products of the conditioned soul's pride. Trying to understand them brings no real benefit, but only a pain within the mind. The insubordinate senses are like enemies that live within the body. Tell the ear to hear, and it may rebel, refusing to hear. Tell the mind to understand a particular point or become firm in a certain way, and it may very well disobey. I shall fight with lust, anger, bewilderment, greed, madness, envy, and pride. Defeating them, I will become blissful at heart, and I will easily become able to worship Lord Govinda. Lust, I will engage in offering the fruits of my work to Lord Krishna. Anger, I will direct towards the enemies of the devotees. Greed, I will engage by being greedy to hear the topics of Lord Hari in the association of the saintly devotees. Bewilderment will be manifested because I cannot immediately attain my worship of the Lord. Madness will be there when I madly glorify the transcendental attributes of Lord Krishna. In this way, I will engage each of this in the service of Lord Krishna. If lust is not controlled, then it becomes the breeding ground for a host of vices and checks one's advancement on the path of devotional service. However, if one stays in the association of the saintly devotees, then that association will carry him beyond the influence of lust, anger, and their friends. I shall not become angry. I shall renounce anger. I shall become free from my 6 enemies, such as greed and bewilderment. I shall control my mind and always remember Lord Krishna Chandra. When lust and his friends hear the word Govinda, they immediately begin to flee, as a herd of elephants flees when it hears a lion's roar. If one engages in single-pointed devotional service to Lord Krishna, then the worshipper attains transcendental bliss, and all kinds of calamities flee from him. Do not sin. Take no interest in profit, adoration, and distinction. Instead, meditate on the lotus feet of Lord Govinda. In this way, all suffering will go far away, and transcendental bliss and pure love for Lord Krishna will spontaneously come. Give up the association of the impious non-devotees. Give up the tendency to find fault in others. Do not follow any spiritual path other than devotional service. Don't worship the demigods. If one takes to the worship of the demigods, he becomes deviated from a path of devotional service. Oh, brother, please become attached to your worshipable Lord alone. Serve him without deviation and sing the glories of his pastimes. I will now quote the words of Hanuman, who demonstrates this exclusive devotion to one's worshipable deity. Hanuman said, although he's not different from Lord Narayan, lotus-eyed Lord Rama alone is the be-all and end-all my life. If one attains the planets of the demigods or pitas and enjoys celestial happiness there, then I congratulate him, saying, well done, well done. However, I myself would never strive to attain such a thing. For myself, I am content simply to worship the divine couple and swim and float in the bliss of pure love for them. This pure love is the most valuable object in the three worlds. Although I have taken great trouble to try to enjoy the miserable sense gratification available in this world, I shall now give it up. I shall now reside in Braj, serve Lord Govinda, hear and chant the topics of Lord Krishna, chant the holy names of Lord Krishna, and at every moment relish the transcendental mellows of devotional service in the association of the residents of Braj. I shall always aspire to serve the Lord, and great faith in the Lord will become manifested in my mind. In this way, I shall remain always fearless in all situations. Narottam Das says, somehow or other, I have accepted the role of a non-devotee. O my master, O great soul, please deliver me. Is one of the many fabulous songs by Narottam Das Thakur called Anya Abhilasa Chadi. He was actually a prince, so very little suffering in the way of material impediments came his way, yet he gave it up to practice devotional service. Of course, Narottam Das Thakur is together with Shyamananda Pandit and Srinivasacharya, and they're considered the incarnations of the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. They're almost contemporaries. They appeared immediately after. There are several books that refer to them, like the Prema Vilas, the Narottam Vilas, the Bhakti Ratnakar, that they're a must read for Vaishnavas. There's another song called Kirupe Paivo Seva. It's a very short one. And Narottam Das Thakur goes, how can an ill-behaved person like me attain devotional service? I have no loving attachments to Sri Guru and Vaishnavas. My mind is endlessly absorbed in Maya, and I don't even have the slightest loving attachment to the Vaishnavas. I have been blinded due to being absorbed in sense gratification day and night, and the witch named Maya repeatedly hangs a noose around my neck. There is no way to defeat her or give her up unless I attain the mercy of the saints. O Vaishnava, O Master, you do not look for faults, but you simply redeem the fallen. This time redeem this Narottam. Again, this song from Prarthana, Kirupe Paivo Seva. The next song is called Thakura Vaishnava Gana. And again, I look for this particular theme, that to take the Vaishnava philosophy, and particularly those embodying the Vaishnava philosophy, the Vaishnavas themselves, as the means to get out of Maya. O saintly Vaishnavas, Although I'm very fallen and misbehaved, I still place this appeal before you. My destiny has plunged me in the fearsome ocean of repeated birth and death. Please grab me by the hair and pull me to the opposite shore. My destiny is very powerful. I am not able to hear the knowledge of spiritual life, and I'm always bound by the roads of karma. I cannot see any way to escape my condition. I see only suffering. Helpless and stricken with grief, I cry. My blind mind cannot see what path is auspicious or inauspicious. My blind mind is helplessly dragged from here to there by lust, anger, greed, bewilderment, madness, and pride. My mind becomes immersed in the impermanent satisfaction of the senses, and I could not understand the real goal of life. For this reason, I did not aspire to attain your lotus feet. Narottam Das says, now that I am able to see, hear, and touch the Vaishnavas, I have become free from all fear. And one more song called Takura Vaishnava Pad from Pratana as well. Oh, brother, please hear my words with rapt attention. The lotus feet of the Vaishnavas are the most valuable treasure of this world. These Vaishnavas continually take shelter of Lord Krishna and worship him. They never abandon their Lord. They are liberated. They are free from a cycle of birth and death. The water that has washed the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas bestows devotional service in pure love of God. Nothing else is as effective for attaining this divine love. I place dust from the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas upon my head. I wear no other ornament. The purifying power of the waters at the various holy places of pilgrimage is described in the Puranas. Although this is something of a deceptive trick, actually there is not anything as purifying as the water that has washed the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. This water fulfills all desires. Moment after moment, my mind finds pleasure in the association of the Vaishnavas. I always seek out the company of those who are devoted to Lord Krishna. Poor-hearted Narottam Das breaks down and cries, how has this fallen condition come upon me? So, going back to the verse, first, there is a reference about the younger wife entrusting the children to the elder wife, voluntarily dying for her husband, or the sati right, which was actually made illegal by the British as they well, there was also the problem that sometimes the wife didn't want to follow the husband, didn't want to enter the funerary pyre, and the relatives just threw the poor woman into the fire. So I guess the British witnessed this and they made it illegal, because this only needs to be done when the wife is faithful and devoted and knowledgeable and wants to follow the husband wherever the husband goes. There is a case of Madri when Pandu died because of a curse, because he shot a deer that was copulating, and this is forbidden. Even in hunting, one cannot shoot an animal that is engaged in procreation. It was actually a sage that was having intercourse with his wife, but because of their austerities, they lost all desire for sensual activities, and they took the body of an animal because the animals, they don't have any any problem. They can have sex without any moral or physical issues. So he was cursed by the sage, by the dying sage, that he was going to be caught in the same situation when he was afflicted by lust or approaching his wife for procreation, he will die. So Pandu died, and they decided, Madri and Kunti were deciding who will actually enter the fire, and Kunti had some arguments. I'm the older wife, and you're young, you can take care of him, you're gonna live longer than me, etc., etc. But Madri said, no, these are special kids, and I will never be able to. I'm not as smart as you, and I'm, all the skills that you have, all the people that you know, you will be a much better mother to them. So they decided that Madri will actually enter the fire. And the next verse, they saw even the brothers. There were 9 brothers, and I guess Bharata's father, who was a Brahmin, he tried to teach him Gayatri mantra and all these rituals, and Bharata got everything backwards. Basically, everybody gave up all hope in him. And his brothers were more into the fruitive side, which the Vedas encourage. So they didn't have the depth and insight into spiritual knowledge and devotional service. So Bharata did well to stay aloof by pretending to be dull. In the next verse, it's referred to that degraded men are not better than animals. Dvipada pashu, 2-legged animals, pashu. So the only difference is that some animals have 4 legs and men have 2. But they behave like animals, so therefore they're not to be considered humans. This because of this condition of humans, pretending to be humans but being like animals, they mistreated Bharata and treated him like a madman who was deaf and dull and blind. But Bharata did not have any issues with this. It's not good. People don't give me enough respect. How can I live like this? On the contrary, he was not affected because he wasn't embodied the concept of life. He was situated in the spiritual platform, and he didn't want to interact with material nature. A similar problem was found by Sukadeva Goswami, who, even though he was the direct son of Srila Vyasadeva, quite an exalted family, decided not to get out of the womb of his mother because Maya was there. So he didn't want to interact with Maya. There was no safety. There was no assurance that Maya wasn't going to touch him and try to take his mind away. Even though Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation of the Supreme Lord, spoke to him in the womb, Sukadeva was not convinced. Lord Krishna himself, whom Sukadeva Goswami knew as the master of Maya, had to actually convince him. And when he came out finally, after 16 years, came out of the womb, he did not engage in any domestic activities, any familial activities. He just walked away, just left home, which to his family, to his family's dismay, wasn't the deal that they thought they worked out. They wanted him to come out, but he may as well stayed in because they didn't get the association anymore. So Jada Bharata was acting in whatever way he could, so he didn't have to interact with the material nature or any people, and didn't care for bodily comforts at all. He didn't bathe, he didn't follow rituals, he ate only what he could get, whether it was palatable or not palatable, tasteless or stale. He would just accept it and eat it and be happy with that. Sometimes he would beg, sometimes he would work and get paid, and then he will buy some food. But otherwise, he had no interest in exchanging, applying his consciousness to how to survive in this world. He wore a dirty loincloth, didn't bother to cover his body. He had a sacred thread, but the sacred thread was caked up and dirty, just blackish. He was called, even though this made him a Brahmana, belonging to a Brahman family, a Brahmana by birth, and or even by qualification, but because of his condition, because of his appearance, people thought he's just a Brahmabandhu, a friend of a Brahmana. Some associates with Brahmans, but he's not really a Brahmana. And he was insulted, neglected, and wandering here and there, just like Rishabhadev had done. He, an incarnation of the Supreme Lord, and he decided, this is going to be my life. I'm going to be just wandering about, completely impervious to the interactions and relationships and rules and morality, and whatever people consider dear is not important to me. Those are the activities of someone in the transcendental platform. So it can be also confused with a mad person, but that wasn't the case with either Rishabhadev or Jada Bharata. So we have cases in more recent history. Vamsidas Babaji, who also wore a loincloth, and nobody ever saw him taking a bath. He had matted locks of hair. He didn't smell bad. And he wouldn't actually talk directly to anybody. He will only talk to his deities. And when they ask him questions, he will just consult with his deities and completely ignore the person who did it after that. So these are extreme cases. And as Prabhupada quotes that song that I couldn't find in all 67 songs by Narottam Das Thakur, someone who is on the spiritual platform is not interested or identify with the body. So I think we can come to the end of today's class. If you have any interest in seeing the behavior of a true Vaishnava that is not interested in the material body, material life, association with gyanis or karmis or yogis, or interested in prestige following, adoration, distinction. One should read the songs of Narottam Das Thakur that Prabhupada said that they are as good as scripture, as good as Shastra, even though they're written in very simple Bengali language. But Narottam Das Thakur is no ordinary person, and we can all benefit from reading and singing his songs. Okay, well, thank you very much for tolerating today's class. We have Ratha Yatra coming up tomorrow. So we're going to be busy with preparations. I hope all of you have enough stamina and sleep before you make it to the festival. And if there are any questions or comments for today, please feel free to express them right now before it's time to greet the deities. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sarvatma Prabhu.
Jai Prabhu.
Thank you so much for reading such beautiful Vaishnava poetry, so heartfelt, so heart-moving. Obviously, I'm a bit concerned that Narottam Das Thakur and many other acharyas emphasize how important it is to avoid association of materialistic persons. And how do we reconcile that with our desire to help those materialistic persons to be Krishna conscious? Can you give me some advice? Especially in the context of Vedananda Goswami, he's telling us that our new way of Sankirtana should be that we connect with people, be interested in what they do, and then they'll be interested in what you do. How can you reconcile that?
My understanding with my poor fund of knowledge is that we can associate, but not on their terms, because their association implies, if their association implies that you take to their ways, and not that they accept you on equal level, at least, then it's not beneficial to either. The idea is that one shows interest in what they're doing, not like talking over or just waiting for a pause so one can insert one's dogma, because they have nothing to contribute with. This is it maybe comes from the misunderstanding that non-devotees have, and this is how it's been understood, non-devotees have no good qualities. Only devotees have good qualities. Actually, the quote is mistaken, because it means only pure devotees have good qualities. So that means we're all out. It's not like just non-devotees, karmis, or this or that have no good qualities, only devotees. So okay, that means I have all good qualities because I'm a devotee. No, we are actually not pure devotees. I mean, at least I'm not. And therefore, I have a good qualities, and non-devotees don't. Everybody has. We're on pretty much an equal level. We have been fortunate to have been swept, sometimes reluctantly, inadvertently, by Lord Chaitanya's movement. His Sankirtan movement has collected us from the muck of the material ocean of nations. And we are fortunate that now we can get association, sometimes by reading from pure devotees, sometimes by encountering live pure devotees. So these are the qualities that the scriptures are talking about, that someone who has the association of a pure devotee, then they can imbibe these qualities by osmosis, by service, by a good association, which usually means to serve and to inquire submissively. In that spirit, knowing that we are practically no better than anybody else, we can associate with others, trying to transmit what we have learned, what we have imbibed, what we have acquired through the pursuit of spiritual life. And we are all in an early stage, so we cannot discount that we need protection. But it is true that many times, and I'm just as guilty as anyone else, we have actually tried to overwhelm others, trying to convince them that you have to be like me. People have different aspirations, they have different desires, and yes, ultimately, everybody should be worshiping Krishna and giving up all sorts of speculation and material desires. But have we done that? Are we on the spiritual platform? Are we relishing the pastimes of Radha Krishna within our minds? Have we given up pride and envy, madness, illusion, and the desire for worship, prestige, adoration, and followers? So all we can do is to submissively try to serve the mission by befriending those who are in a perhaps more degraded condition than the one we are, and trying to elevate them, because this is the duty of a superior, has to try to pull people to that level instead of trying to push them back and show them, oh, I'm better than you, and you should just give up whatever you're doing and be like me. So I don't think there is a contradiction in terms. It's just that we have to actually see where we are at. And we have a hard time with that because we have a much higher conception of where we stand, where we really stand. That's why they say that the greatest profit in any business is to buy a person for what they're worth and to sell them for what they think they're worth. There's a great discrepancy in profit margin. So that's my 2 cents, Prabhu. I hope that helped. Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Anyone else?
I like to draw your attention to the chat in which I have.
Yes, I'm looking at it right now. That I'm going to read it. That you said the verse from Srimad Dasa, Deha Smriti Nahiyar Samsara Bandhana Kahantar, is based upon Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 13:142. And indeed says, Deha Smriti Nahiyar Samsara Kupa Kahantar, Taha Hoite no Chahudar, Viraha Samudra Jale Kama Timing Gile Gile Gopi Gane Neha Tare Para. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, the gopis have fallen into the great ocean of separation and are being devoured by the Timingila fish of their ambition to serve you. The gopis are to be delivered from the mouths of these Timingila fish, for they are pure devotees. Since they have no other material conception of life, they should aspire for liberation. Why should they aspire for liberation? The gopis do not want that liberation desired by yogis and jnanis, for they are already liberated from the ocean of material existence. So, and you say this is actually written by Narottam Das Thakur?
No, not written by Narottam Das Thakur, but it appears that the same verse practically how that has come about is a mystery to me. The verse of Narottam Das Thakur, what Srila Prabhupada is attributing to Narottam Das Thakur, and in many instances he simply attributes it to. He just says it's a Bengali song, but here we have. We have practically word for word the same text, and
Well,
I don't know.
there is a song of Narottam Das Thakur mentioning the Timingila fish. So there may be, not with the same words, but that he wrote based on this quote by the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So whatever it is, it rings true to us no matter what. So thank you for finding that quotation. Maybe just Narottam Das Thakur sang this from a Chaitanya Charitamrita, made it his own, and it became popular in Bengal. Who knows?
I have a question, if there's time for a question.
Oh, you can ask.
Okay, so regarding Yashodeva, all right, their lordships have disappeared. Another time.
No, it's okay. It's all right.
All right, if you insist. So with regards to the association of non-devotees, I'm not clear on how it is possible to associate with non-devotees without being contaminated by their non-devotional qualities. My own experience is, because for years I worked at jobs with non-devotees, but I was a devotee, have been a devotee for many years, and despite my best efforts to try to remain aloof and giving my association to them where it was possible, if someone was inquisitive or whatever, and otherwise trying not to be affected by their association, I found that nonetheless, I was affected by their association, and there did not seem to be a way in which I could avoid being adversely affected. In spite of my best efforts to maintain my purity, I still found that I was adversely affected by their association. So I'm trying to understand if there is a means, a way to do that without being adversely affected. I'm curious to know what it is, because I haven't found that. The only thing that that seemed to work for me was just simply I could interact with them without being contaminated, as long as I was giving them Krishna consciousness, but otherwise avoidance was the only thing that seemed to protect me from contamination.
Okay, here come my 2 cents. For the majority of us, what you say is true. However, in order to spread this movement, we have to take risks. And this is where the superheroes, the preachers, come into the picture. And if they become complacent, if the preacher thinks, I can do this, I have the strength, I have the purity, if one doesn't feel helpless and begs for the mercy begs for protection, there are no chances. One will get swept by the lesser qualities, because usually the lowest common denominator will prevail in our lives. However, if one is willing to take risks for the mission, then one will be protected. Prabhupada was actually very fond, and he's the devotees that got more association with Prabhupada than anybody else were those who were taking risks, without a doubt, more than anybody else. So whether they were in the scientific preaching field, or in the book distribution field, or however, or university, or talking to professors, or smuggling books into Russia, or the Iron Curtain, behind the Iron Curtain, those are the, or like Brahmananda and Gargamuni going to East Pakistan and West Pakistan to preach. This is what attracted the attention of Srila Prabhupada, and these are the people who got the most protection, the most valuable advancement in Krishna consciousness. So for us, for the ordinary rank and file, for the folk, we should be deadly afraid of the association of non-devotees, because we will fall prey. We will acquire their qualities, and they won't acquire the qualities of a Vaishnava. But if one doesn't consider oneself a Vaishnava, but has a message to deliver and is able to please the Guru and the Parampara, the Vaishnavas, by taking risks, this is the person who will be able to do this work that seems insurmountable and impossible for others. So what kills everything is pride, to think that I am better than what I am. I can do this. And what saves us is true humility, which means I am insignificant. I am but a spark. I am a servant of a servant of a servant, with no power on my own. I depend on the mercy of the Vaishnavas. And if I deliver this message to the non-Vaishnavas, maybe the Vaishnavas will be pleased with me and protect me. So this is, I see it as practically the only way to associate with non-devotees, to actually deliver a message and not believe it's me who is doing all the work and I am the strong person who can actually give them my association, etc., etc. This is all illusion. This is all simply a setup for fall down. In my many years of preaching and book distribution, somehow or other I survived, even though pride was my only shelter, just because of Krishna's and the Vaishnava's mercy. I somehow or other survived. I'm still clinging by a thread to Krishna consciousness, by the mercy of Krishna and the Vaishnavas. But I always had very clear that I had a mission, and in this spirit, I try to give Krishna consciousness to others. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's all I have for you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Okay, another day, another chance to serve Krishna and the Vaishnavas. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam, Ki Jai, Vaishnava Sangha, Ki Jai, Hari Hari Bo.